Okay, cool, guys. So again, as you said, we're Payment Pilot, full service credit card processor. We do our own underwriting. We have some technology partners that we work with directly. All publicly traded companies. One's based out of Alpharetta, another one's based out of New York City. And so what we do is we essentially license their technologies, but we handle everything else on the back end. What that does for us is it gives us an opportunity to work with great developers, great dev teams, be able to stay on top of all the trends and the regulations as well too. We'll talk about one here in a second that just happened a couple days ago actually, and it's kind of shaken the industry up. It's kind of wild how fast it happened, but we've been out in front of it the entire time. So a little bit about me: 17 years in the payments industry. We processed over $20 billion. I operate three other businesses that are in the 7 and almost 8 figure range. I sit on the Forbes Business Council, so I write a lot for them, and also the Entrepreneur.com Leadership Council. So I spend a lot of my time writing. Our payment processing solution is very simple, right? So most processors out there, I'll kind of break it down. They try to keep things as vague as possible. A lot of times you'll never find anybody that publishes their rates outside of like Square or QuickBooks. And the reason why they do that is because all credit card processors, we get our rates from the card brands themselves. Everybody gets the same rates. So in this industry, it's not, no one can get better rates than us, and we can't get better rates than anybody else. So a lot of credit card processors, what they'll do is they'll take this and keep things vague, so that way they can create larger margins, right? Also contracts and things like that we will talk about here shortly. But for us, we broke it down into 2 categories. We have our Essentials program, which is wholesale. So we're not charging transaction fees. We're not charging batch fees. We basically cut out all of the junk. So it's very straightforward and incredibly easy to understand. We do that for a couple of reasons. One, because it does help us recruit and onboard faster for our customer service side. But then also we found that our clients tend to stay around a lot longer when they know exactly what it is that they're paying, right? So Essentials, very basic, not a lot to it. And, it's really, really good pricing. We, full disclosure, that is what we call our loss leader, right? We'll put that out there because a lot of times people will come on on that program and move over to our Advantage program, which I'm going to tell you guys about here in a second. So Advantage, that is where you pass the cost of the transaction through completely or in subsidy to the customer. This is the one that has changed in this past 2 weeks, I would say. Visa came out, and there were a lot of people that were doing it, and they were just doing it non-compliantly. So it's legal to pass the transaction fees through and the percentages and things like that to your customer, but you have to do it the right way, right? So there's some administrative stuff that has to be done on the back end. There's some verbiage that has to be used, like very, very specific verbiage. And then there are caps on how much you can actually charge and the way that they're charged, okay? And so what ended up happening where there was a lot of processors out there that were doing it legally, but not compliantly. And so Visa actually came in a couple of weeks ago and dropped the hammer on everybody, right? And said, okay, now these are the new rules. They're much, much stricter. And instead of slapping on the wrist, they're doling out like incredible fines to people. Like we've seen fines as high as $10,000 per transaction that have been running out there for some of the larger companies, especially the tech companies that have been promoting this. Obviously we were way out ahead of that. Like as soon as we heard it, right, we started immediately switching people over that were in our portfolio that were compliant on Tuesday and non-compliant on Wednesday, right? So we started switching everybody over. It was only a small portion of the book because we had everybody on another pricing platform that was similar, but still compliant and wasn't touched. But actually that one was touched yesterday. So we're in the process of moving a lot of people over there as well. That's one of the things that we do from a service perspective here. If there's ever any changes whatsoever to the legality or the compliance, that's our top priority are our merchants. And we want to make sure that we're keeping them out of harm's way. Other processors I've seen maybe don't go as far as that, but that's fine. So For you guys with the Advantage program, we can do separate reporting for your users as well. It's going to eliminate the bill or virtually eliminate it, and it's completely compliant end to end, as well as, obviously we're using bank level encryption. And so all the transactions are safe. We've never had a breach. There's never been any, we've never had anything negative happen. All right, so how do you position the Advantage program with your customers? Really simple. It's the specific verbiage on the website, proposals and invoices that we'll provide to you. We can train the sales reps, whether that's yours directly or your clients, to explain and handle objections, how to do it, and then obviously staying consistent from client to client. The people who work with us, we want to make sure that they're in the best position possible to obviously maximize their opportunity and potential when they're working with us. Why work with us? Dedicated customer service team. I know that's so cliche, right? But it really is. Like, we have somebody that we would assign one or multiple people specifically to your account. So you're not calling into an 800 number and pushing 2 and getting passed around and things like that. You'll have a single or maybe 2 points of contact. But it would be one email address that you would be sending to. So, our ticket turnaround times are super fast. If we have clients that are not sure if they want to come over yet, maybe for the pricing, and they're like, hey, I want to see if you can save us some money. We do free statement analysis where we actually break down exactly what it is that they're paying at the time, and then show them down to the penny what that bill would have been, had they been processing with us. Right. And, full disclosure, we're not always the cheapest. Right. And that's not, we don't ever try to come into a situation saying that. The main reason being is we tend to find that race to the bottom type pricing, right? It tends to attract clients that don't really fit our core values and our mission statement here. So, sometimes it does work, well, a lot of times it does work out where we're going to be a little bit more affordable. But in terms of, we get those people that call in and say, I want your absolute cheapest price and I don't want to pay for it and things like that. That's when we're going to guide them to Advantage, because, obviously, if you want to eliminate the bill, that's going to be the best way to do it. Right. So we have no setup fees, no contracts, no cancellation fees or hidden fees. So that's something that, we are a believer, and I've always been in this industry with this thing. If you don't want to work with us, then we're not going to hold you into a relationship that you're not happy. Right. So a lot of times we can refer to other companies, and that does not happen often. Right. But we do occasionally, we'll run into somebody that it's just not a fit, right, on both sides. And so our goal is not to hold anybody captive and say, well, tough luck, you signed with us and you're staying with us until the end of your term. We just don't, we don't like to play those games. We do PCI compliance and validation assistance. If you guys are familiar with PCI compliance, it's incredibly annoying. It's something that every merchant has to do every single year. And they're actually kind of cracking down on that as well from a fine perspective. Also loss of chargeback, things like that. So there's some consequences for not following the rules that Visa set. Or that the card brands are setting right now. And that's something that the industry literally has never seen before. Before, if you weren't PCI compliant, you might have to pay like an extra 40 or 50 bucks a month, something like that. But that was really the extent of it, right? Now rules are changing, and it's how fast can you keep up, right? We can give and provide custom and detailed reporting and analytics, on transactions, on user counts, on, new merchants boarded, merchants who have canceled. We can build out a lot of custom reports because we do collect an incredible amount of data. We do have advanced risk and fraud monitoring. This is something that I really believe that we stand out with almost probably everybody else in the country, right? So we monitor our chargeback reports daily. We monitor our returned, return transactions, especially on ACH, because for ACH electronic checks, whenever you process something, it's always going to go through. It'll show approved 100% of the time unless the routing number is off, right? And what ends up happening, it's just like a bad check where it takes a time. ACH takes a lot longer to process because of the rails that they're on. So it takes a little bit of, it's not like a credit card where it's like, boom, you do it and then you get the money the next day. ACH, we will front the money, right? But then, it can take up to 5 or 6 business days for that check to actually clear because, the number of people that are involved in it. So that's one of the metrics that we monitor every single day. And so if we do ever have anybody that has a return, we reach out to them immediately by phone and email as well, let them know what's going on and try to help them collect, from that customer again, because, especially if you're not paying attention for it, that can be pretty costly. So dispute management, if there's chargebacks, right? Obviously there's, not everybody is always playing on the up and up. Not everybody is always satisfied with their, with the vendor that they're, like if you get your kitchen done, and we've seen it before where there's been chargebacks because the knobs were wrong, like the pulls. I mean, it's crazy, right? Unfortunately, the card holders, they hold a lot of the leverage most of the time, and they can charge back at any time for any reason, right? So what we do, we've got a department that actually, again, we monitor this, we reach out proactively, and then we help them with that process. And I believe we're one of the only ones in the country that actually take that proactive approach. Most of the other, especially the larger processors, they'll send a letter via snail mail, say, hey, you have a chargeback, you have until this amount of time to respond it, send to this email address. And we see a lot of people that don't open that letter, and then they end up losing the chargeback because their time has run out, right? So, and it's kind of a sad situation. Payment gateway access, obviously we have our own. This probably wouldn't apply for this solution because we would be API building in. But we do have our own proprietary gateway called MX that it does everything, right? So wholesale equipment pricing, with an integration like this, it's a little bit more difficult to put equipment on something just because we only do with the chips, so the EMVs, and to get another software company compliant with the EMV, it can be incredibly difficult. So a lot of times these solution that we recommend, if they need one, is they can use your system, right? And then they can use our mobile app on the side. And the reporting it's not quite as clean, but it still works, right? And we would obviously educate them on that. That's kind of the workaround that we found. And again, the proprietary B2B pricing that we have, I don't think it would apply in this situation, but we do have some technology that we developed that actually goes and collects level 2 and level 3 data on certain types of transactions, which brings the cost down. All right, capabilities. This is basically what we just went into, right? Compliant surcharging. We have the virtual terminal. We can do unlimited users. Most other at no cost. Most other tech companies that have a gateway like this they would usually give 1 or 2 users for free, and then there's a monthly fee for each additional user. We provide all of them for free, and we could also give them different access levels. So that way you don't have, your lower level employees being able to see everything, and there's bookkeeping and things like that. So we can give different security preferences. We do have recurring payments, a robust reporting. We can store customer information, keep card on file. We sync with QuickBooks. There's a whole lot of stuff that we do that would all be included, in the API, build-in. So, and it's really cool because you can get as custom as you want. That's going to be it, right? So we'll send this over to you guys. This QR code takes you to a landing page that has a little bit more information on it. And so I can have that, I can have this sent over to you, and it'll have our contact information, obviously, when I reach out. But what do you guys got for me? Do you have any questions?
Thanks, Chris. We'll go ahead and open up the floor to our customer base for any questions, and our coworkers as well.
Great.
So what is the difference between Essential and Advantage? I mean, is there a price difference, or how's that work?
So Essentials is our wholesale pricing, right? Where we are, there's no transaction fee, simple, easy. And Advantage is where we take the cost of that transaction and pass it through to the cardholder itself. So the merchant does not pay for that fee, or only pays a fraction of what they would be, because of the different compliance, setups behind Advantage and those things like that. The pricing is different, but the merchant is not really paying for anything at the end of the day. It's all being passed through to the cardholder, or most of it. Does that answer your question?
Partially, but you're asking, who's paying for it. But like what do you pay for like in essentials then? What?
So essentials, that would be something that this would be negotiated at a later time. You know, because there are a number of different ways that we can do that. And, you know, it all depends on how aggressive the partners want to get. So, you know, I don't think we're really prepared to talk like details of price right now. I don't think we're quite there in the conversation yet. But that would all be, you know, the partner itself would have a large, you know, say in that.
All right. Then one last question on that is we're pretty much low volume in terms of transactions, but we're high in price tag. So does that fit into this pretty well?
Yeah. And so I don't think I told you guys this. Our primary customer base are home service contractors, right? So we have national contracts with, you know, with a lot of the larger, so kitchen tune-up, bath tune-up, budget blinds, a lot of your national franchise home service partners where, you know, we're used to seeing 40, 50, 60, $100,000 tickets, you know, or lower than that as well. But yeah, our risk department is very comfortable with those transactions. Obviously, we do underwrite every account. We want to make sure that there's no open bankruptcies or that, you know, you're overdrafting your account, you know, things like that. You know, we obviously have to protect ourselves as well. And we do that through underwriting. But yeah, we have no problem with those large tickets. Karen, I saw you typed in, if there are no fees passed along, what is your pricing structure? Okay, that's great. So it's a basic pricing structure with, you know, if it's swiped, it's this. If it's keyed, it's this. So simple, easy. And we earn like based on the margins that we create, you know, with that. So the wholesale pricing on the essentials, obviously we don't make nearly as much money as we could. But like I said, it's, you know, it's an additional, our end game, it's all volume, right? So if we bring on a lot of customers and we make a little bit of money on each one, we're happy with that, as opposed to bringing on a few customers and making big margins. We'd rather play the long game, right? And keep your prices nice and low if that's the way that you want to do it, and have you stay around forever. Because in my opinion, that's ultimately, you know, that's a better strategy that I like to go to market with. So yeah, in terms of, you know, the profit margins, they're very small on that. But like I said, we use it as a loss leader and it's a volume play. Does that make sense? Cool. Awesome. Anybody else? Okay. Well, April, how we doing?
We are doing great. And if there's no other questions, that's fine. We can go ahead and end our session. And then if there are any additional questions, then Chris, we will pass those along to you.
Yeah, please do. Yeah, that's fine.
April, and I can send you the slide that Chris presented today with the QR code and the landing page. And if anyone has any questions, you have my email address too. So feel free to reach out.
Will do. Thanks, Olivia.
All right.
All right. Well, if there's nothing else, then we can go ahead and end our session today. And thank you everyone for joining. We appreciate it.
Nice to see all you. Thank you.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you.